Is The Chris Heasley Show, coming to you from Radio DeBang.
The Chris Heasley Radio Show. Alex, you are up, my friend, and it's very good to see you today, and I appreciate your time. Alex, you are going. You're running for Congress in a district that is traditionally to the left. Mm-hmm. Is that safe to say?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's traditionally to the left, and I would say that you're a strong conservative.
I am.
How do you expect to have any sort of a chance when you're running in an environment that's suited for your opponent?
Absolutely. So it's a great question, and I want to remind everyone that while it's been blue since 2019, which is when Representative Fletcher flipped the seat from Representative Culberson. Before that, this was a red district. And though the map has changed and Representative Fletcher has had a sizable lead in the past electoral cycles, what we forget is that this is often an equation of voter turnout. So even if the margin is 60-40, blue versus red, if people aren't turning out to vote, then there is huge white space. There's a lot of market share for swing voters, new voters, independent voters to come over to the Republican side and flip the seat. Because if her base isn't really expanding and people aren't traditionally voting in this district, then we've got a lot of white space and upside to gain huge ground and flip the seat. And I'll talk quickly about the three groups that I think we target to do that, and the groups that we've been targeting to do that. So I may have mentioned this on the show in the past, but when you think about this district, this is one of the most diverse congressional districts in the country. I mean, Houston is a diverse city, and this district is right in the heart of it. It's 40% white and then 60% minority. And when we think about the minority groups in our district, so many of them have not heard from Representative Fletcher. They don't know who she is. She hasn't engaged with them. Representative Fletcher traditionally has this, base of liberal women that have been a reliable stronghold for her, often white women. But these minority groups have often not engaged with their rep, and really, many people haven't taken the time to engage with them. And so, what we're doing with our campaign is we're working hard to meet everyone of every background, of every type of person in this district that wants to get involved in democracy here in the city. So that's group one is engaging our diverse district, every corner, every place. Group two, Gen Z and millennials. I'm 27 years old, and when we think about the future of the party, if we want to continue having a shot in our midterm elections, in our national elections, local elections, we've got to bring in the young people. We've got to give them representation. We've got to get them engaged. That's what Charlie Kirk did so well. And that's what inspired me to run 6 months ago after Charlie Kirk was murdered. I thought, my gosh, we need people like Charlie to step up, carry the mantle, carry the banner, to bring these people into the voting booth, along with all the great primary voters and general voters that are already out there and a part of the party. So I think that's a huge swath when we think about the Heights, when we think about Rice Military. There are lots of hardworking, common sense, conservative people that live in this district that, maybe the last time they voted was in a presidential year, but they've never voted in a non-presidential election. This is that opportunity to bring those people in the fold. And then lastly, this district has many independent and swing voters. And again, even talking about what Orlando Sanchez was just talking about earlier, many people care about the fiscal issues that are facing our city. And even people that may have disagreements on social issues, we need someone that actually brings common sense fiscal conservatism to this seat. Right now with Representative Fletcher, you have someone that doesn't have a financial background. She doesn't have that common sense fiscal conservative story and resume. And so because of that, I think there are many people that often fall in the moderate camp that we can bring over and say, look, we're not here to play partisan games. We're here to just bring common sense, pragmatic policies that will help the city, help the district, help the state right here in CD7. I think those are the three groups of how we flip this seat.
Yeah, I mean, your district is very diverse. And what I mean by that is that you have the upscale neighborhoods where they have the luxury of being able to support a leftist. But then you have those lower income, blue collar, minority neighborhoods, but who probably have no affinity towards Lizzie Fletcher or her Marxist leanings, but they don't vote.
Right.
And so at the same time, Lizzie Fletcher is a household name and you're an up and comer. What is the state of your campaign today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we have run a grassroots heavy campaign. We've had to build this campaign from the ground up. When you think about name ID, when you think about getting out and block walking, meeting people, I mean, we have been in full on sprint mode since we launched this campaign in December. And just to give all the viewers an idea of where we stand, I mean, we've had hundreds of people sign up to our website, to block walk, to volunteer, to get involved. We actually, and some of you may have seen it on my social media posts, we have over 200 people signed up and are willing to volunteer. And so when we think about the general, again, how do we flip the seat? How do we boost name ID? It takes all hands on deck. It takes these 200 people and then some. And so something we've really been working on it and focused on in this runoff phase is we call it building the army. Our goal is we won the primary with 20% by 20% margin. And so this next phase is really gathering the troops, building the army. And I've described this too as very much a David versus Goliath campaign. I mean, we're the David, we're going against Goliath. And before David was a warrior, he was a shepherd boy that gathered sheep, that gathered people, brought them together. He gathered with Saul's army before going out to face Goliath. And so really in this campaign, we're in this gathering phase. We need to gather the troops, gather our neighbors, gather our friends, and bring them over to our team, get them behind our campaign and what we're doing so that we can take down Goliath. We've got 5 months to do it, and I'd love to have you join me.
So, I mean, Lizzie Fletcher, it's safe to say, regardless of how she spins it, but she's an opponent of the energy sector.
Mm-hmm.
And her, the upscale neighborhoods in that area, they're all engineers and oil and gas attorneys that service that field. Is her opposition to traditional energy development, is it weighing on her popularity in those neighborhoods?
I think that a lot of people, it's a good question. I think that a lot of people have kind of just compromised and settled and said, well, it's going to be really hard to beat her, so we got to work with what we got. And people have kind of settled with mediocrity. I mean, Lizzie Fletcher is very much, I call her a weather vane. She will blow whatever direction the wind takes her. Whatever Nancy Pelosi says, she will do. And so you'll see her at times vote for the energy sector, but it's often to do the bare minimum, to try and keep them satiated, or at least on her side. But then she votes against the energy sector. And I brought up the, unlocking LNG exports bill before. This is a bill that she directly voted against at a time when unfreezing.
Okay, first explain the bill.
Yeah, so the unlocking LNG exports bill, LNG exports were frozen by Joe Biden. And there was an effort to unfreeze LNG exports. LNG exports, liquefied natural gas, we were going to send it all over the world and make a lot of money doing so. Houston companies were due for a huge revenue boost from exporting this LNG. And Representative Fletcher voted against unfreezing those exports, directly cutting and hurting the revenue of companies in this city, in this district, energy companies all over. And this is, mind you, this is the lifeblood of our economy here in the city. So she voted against the bill, and then the very next year, the piece of legislation comes up, and this time she votes for the bill. And it's the exact same wording, it's the exact same piece of legislation, and she supports it. And why does she support it? Well, she supports it because Nancy Pelosi gave her permission to. So that's what I want the viewers to realize, and what I hope the broader city realizes is that, we're dealing with someone that has spent a lot of time in D.C., she's become a politician. She's going to do whatever her party leadership says. She's going to ignore what the city needs, what the voters need, what the constituents want, and it shows in her public voting record.
Wasn't she a supporter of the Inflation Reduction Act? And wasn't that act, it didn't have anything to do with reducing inflation. You can't reduce inflation with a piece of legislation. But wasn't it largely a green, commie energy bill?
Yep. it was meant to give massive subsidies to this, the clean energy, green
By the way,
energy.
they're not clean energies. They
Right.
are worthless energies. They are very limited. They're good for lining your sidewalks, not much more than that. But it's a government boondoggle, so it should be the rip-off energies.
Yeah, and she voted for this bill, which, by the way, the money they spent on these inefficient operators was way higher than even expected in this, massive multi-billion-dollar allocation to these companies. And, again, when you think about the lifeblood of the Houston economy, are upstream oil and gas, midstream, downstream, all working together, and exporting LNG through the Houston Ship Channel. When we have a representative that doesn't realize what makes this economy tick, and she's all for supporting inefficient operators that aren't ready to compete. That's why the government's giving them a ton of money. That's directly hurting the best operators. That's keeping them from doing their job well. And I mean, I think it's time for the city to rise up and say we've had enough. It's time for these energy workers, employees to say we can't deal with this anymore.
I remember when the border was completely porous, and her constituents were rightly concerned, and they addressed her in a public setting, and she scoffed at them. She dismissed them. She said something to the effect of, "We'll put up some barbed wire. How's that make you happy?" She is a dedicated communist. She is dedicated to communist Marxist ideology and not to the concerns of her constituents. And that's one small example. But can you talk about her opposition to a closed and secured border?
Absolutely. I mean, to your point, the border was so porous, and the president has done an excellent job, along with the governor, of closing the border, and we need to codify some of these things into legislation. But Lizzie Fletcher, even this year, introduced a bill called the ICE Hiring Freeze Act, with the intention of freezing any more hiring, completely stopping ICE in its tracks.
Well, I mean, ICE plays a critical role in securing our borders, securing our country, and policing, serving as a policing element to protect our people. And again, it just shows she's committed to this communist ideology. If she can get this thing kicked off, then she can begin working to greater goals, which would be to reopen that border.
Right. And I want you to think about, again, this district is a majority district. There are so many people that worked hard, that came here legally, that are here for the American dream, that want to participate in American life. And Lizzie Fletcher is essentially telling them, hey, I'm going to let people in that cheated to be here. I'm going to let people in that didn't do it right. And they're going to be in your neighborhoods, and they're going to take government money that you pay into through your taxes. I mean, it's a direct affront to all of the minority communities and legal immigrants in our diverse district for her to introduce a piece of legislation like this and get away with it.
It's a direct threat to our immigrant communities, because it allows for a cartel element to come across that border. And what those cartels do to our immigrant communities that are from Mexico is they use them, they extort them by threatening their families back in their homeland. It is our minority Mexican families that need to be protected first with the strong ICE element. And by Lizzie Fletcher being the lawless animal that she is, she really puts these people at risk while she pretends to be their advocate.
You're exactly right. I mean, and I don't know why we haven't talked about this before. The beauty of public record is that we can look these things up. And I think so often people, again, with the name ID, hear her name and think, oh, she's been in the seat. They don't do their research and realize, man, she is not a moderate. She is not a friend of the city, or a friend of the district, but she's actually really hurt the district with policies such as the one we just discussed.
So what are her opinions and positions on the traditional family? And I don't want to make a huge, argument in this manner, but I do want to say that our family's been under attack. The family element has been under attack by the Marxist commie left for some time. Does she hold a position for or against the traditional family?
This is a great question, and I'll just speak to a few pieces of legislation and agenda items that she's pushed, and I'll let the audience decide what her view of the traditional family is. So, Representative Fletcher has no biological children. She has 2 stepchildren, and she's also, very much been a supporter of, as of late, trans rights. And working really hard to progress this transgender
But they
agenda.
aren't rights. They are extended, not rights. They're what is the word?
They're compromises
They're
on,
not, I
on-
would say that they're violations of other people's rights because she's attempting to pick out one group
Right.
and make them special.
Yes.
Hold them above the rest.
Yep.
Under this idea that they are somehow a victim because Lizzie Fletcher believes that the American people are ignorant and that we are prejudicial people. So she uses this argument to play us against our own people because the gay community, they are Americans, they are our citizens, they are our brothers. And it is Lizzie Fletcher that's attempting to create a divide between these two we are one community, but 2 different particularities in people. By what she does is she attempts to extend not rights but favors to one group at the expense of everyone else, and thus create resentment and division. It is a commie tactic. It's a commie tactic, and she is a commie.
Right. And so, to your point, these compromises look like supporting the letting men in women's bathrooms agenda. It looks like supporting and advocating for men to participate
But
in women's
it is
sports.
not. It is not letting men in. It is let's violate women. Let's threaten women.
Yep. And so with those facts in mind, I mean, the audience knows the answer of, does she support the traditional family agenda? Absolutely not. She doesn't support it with her track record. She doesn't, support it with the way she lives her life.
I mean, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I'm okay with her going into a bathroom that's all female. But the idea that there is a muscle-bound man, an overbuilt man in that bathroom, dressed in a dress or whatever, it's an absolute threat to our young women that go to the bathroom. They should have the protection, the peace of mind to know that they can go in that safe space and be safe.
Completely agree. And this is common sense. These are not things that we should have to be talking about, but based on her track record, we do. And based on her position, we do.
So one of the things President Trump, in my opinion, is doing an incredible job is I feel like he is largely being hamstrung, but he has a vision to return industry to this country and make us nationalist, which means self-serving, largely self-serving, where our own industries would support our own people, which is the way it should be, with some slight exceptions, but in general, the larger part of our industry should be served locally. Where does Lizzie Fletcher stand on a nationalist, self-serving, independent United States of America?
Yeah, Representative Fletcher really doesn't introduce legislation on the economy. She doesn't bring up this topic. She doesn't talk about the state of the economy in the city of Houston, in our district, which, as we know from the recent Kinder survey that came out to Rice University, is the most important topic on people's minds, the state of the economy.
Say it again, 1 second.
Yeah.
Rice University came out with a study called the Kinder study.
The Kinder Institute puts out a survey every year of what do constituents care about.
Is it young constituents or all?
No, it's everyone in the city. They poll about 9,000 people
in the city of Houston.
Yep, city of Houston, Fort Bend, Montgomery County, Houston, and the surrounding area.
And their overall conclusion is we need the economy fixed.
Yep, the sentiment around our economy is at an all-time. It is at an all-time low. It has not been this gloomy since the 1980s, since the oil bust.
How can you not be concerned? Our currency is worthless. A $20 bill used to mean something. Now you can blow your nose with a $20 bill. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
That's what the constituents of Lizzie Fletcher are saying it matters, not men in women's bathroom. What she's doing is she's doing a rouge. where she creates an issue where there is none. She creates this fallacy that there's a need and a desire for men to use women's bathrooms. And in doing so, she evades the issue that is really important, which is the strength of our currency, the strength of our economy. That's what matters for everybody.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're spot on. And, I think part of the reason Representative Fletcher hides behind these social issues is because she doesn't have a strong way to solve the real issues in our district. I mean, she hasn't introduced legislation, and we talked about this before. She hasn't introduced legislation not only on the economy, but on the broken public school system here in the district, on rising crime, on violent crime that continues to spread in our city. She doesn't talk about these things and often hides behind these social issues she brings up and dodges the real meat and potatoes, which is what we need. We need people to dive into this stuff that have experience working in in these spaces, working in the energy industry to solve these issues. We need pragmatic fixers.
I mean, President Trump comes in and, or I won't say that it was his work, but it's in the same, I would say he created the momentum for this LNG blockage act.
Yeah.
What was it called? LNG?
The Unlocking LNG
Unlocking
Exports
LNG
bill.
Export Act. I mean, that's the stuff that we need. And that's just one small example. All forms of industry need to be unleashed in this country. And largely, I come from a manufacturing background. I want to see manufacturing come back to this country. And Alex, should you get elected, where would you stand on the economy?
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to this district that I think, given my background, I have a unique qualification and understanding of this district. Again, what drives this district and what's oppressing this district? Gloomy sentiments about the economy are suppressing this district and oppressing this district. And hamstrung energy companies, energy companies that aren't being empowered to reach their full potential are going to keep that economy hamstrung. And when you look at my background as an energy and chemicals consultant, I've worked throughout upstream, midstream, downstream. I can help work with people in the government and then officials at the state and local level to say, okay, how do we let the best operators do their thing? How do we let them unleash their revenue potential, which means they need more FTEs, which means they operate more efficiently, which means energy is cheaper and more abundant. I mean, not only could we employ more people by really focusing in on our comparative advantage as the energy capital of the Western world, but we could also make costs cheaper for everyone in this district and in this city. And so I think that knowledge of, not only business know-how, but energy expertise is something that I bring to the table. And clearly Lizzie Fletcher's had, 3 terms to bring it to the table, and she hasn't done a thing.
Yeah. Certainly I would think that there is a considerable amount of oil and gas working constituents in her district in CD7. So, well, it's been a great hour, and I do appreciate your time, Alex. When is your election? Tell us when and where people can find more about you.
Yes. Please check out my website at halefortexas.com. Like I said, we're rallying the troops. So please sign up for our email list or our volunteer page. I'd love to hear from you. Early voting, the election is 3 weeks from today. Election day is May 26th, and then which is the day after Memorial Day. And then early voting is May 18th through 22nd. So I'd love to earn your vote and your support and have you join the team as we head towards the general election.
Thank you again for coming on the show. Yeah, I appreciate your time. And this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. We will be back here next week with one more hot topic. Have a great week.